If you can hear me, say Hari Hari. I'd like to welcome Nagar Chandra and Narangi. They've come all the way from Tennessee, painstaking journey through Chicago O'Hare Airport, then New Jersey Airport, and all the way Delhi and here. Came up the road this morning, they just arrived. Please welcome. They have they've developed a community in Tennessee and their daughter Navya, maintain their daughter Navya, and also they have very busy lives professionally as doctors, and taking the time come all the way here to the Dham. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Come on, work with me, people. And then we have Yogadish Prabhu wearing the red shirt there, quite noticeable there in the audience with the very handsome smile. And he's come all the way from ISV. He's one of the, I was going to say rising star, but he already rose. Who's mature beyond his years, taken on many leadership roles at ISKCON of Silicon Valley and beyond, including Japa Jolt and the Shastra Jam, and he's definitely got a portfolio, and very steady, very serious. Thank you for coming all the way over to the Dham. It's really good to have you here. Hare Krishna. So, hearing, chanting about the Lord's transcendental names, forms, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes, remembering them, worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord 16 kinds of paraphernalia, and worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers to the Lord, considering serving the Lord as a servant, in the mood of Dasa, and considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything to the Lord. These 9 are considered to be the processes of pure devotional service. And one who has dedicated one's life to serving Krishna through these 9 methods is understood to be full in knowledge, because the revelation that these are the pinnacle of human achievement is the conclusion of the Shastra. So that's what we're doing here. We're engaging in the most important of all the activities, which is hearing and chanting, the gateway to all advancement in devotional service. So thank you for joining. So we only have this much more to go today. How hard could that be? I'm going to find a sticker that I can dispense with. This one says halfway, so I think I can use this here. Okay, this time I'm going to be more careful. Vrindavan Vilasini is a great artist. She makes these garlands at least once a day. They're beautiful, fragrant, and they're uplifting. Thank you very much, Vrindavan Vilasini. Hare Krishna. Hare Hare.
Just to compare.
We're continuing with the reading of Madhya Lila. We're at chapter 9. Lord Chaitanya's travels to the holy places. And one who would like to take some time, a few months, you can make a photocopy of this and then try to go all the places that Lord Chaitanya went and see how it goes. The Brahmana continued, actually, I see only Lord Krishna sitting on a chariot as Arjuna's charioteer. Taking the reins in his hands, he appears very beautiful and blackish. While seeing Lord Krishna sitting on a chariot and instructing Arjuna, I am filled with ecstatic happiness. As long as I read the Bhagavad Gita, I simply see the Lord's beautiful features. It is for this reason that I am reading the Bhagavad Gita, and my mind cannot be distracted from this. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Brahmana, indeed, you are an authority in the reading of the Bhagavad Gita. Whatever you know constitutes the real purport of the Bhagavad Gita. Purport, according to the Shastras, Bhaktya Bhagavatam Grayam na Buddhaya na Chatikaya. One should understand the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing them from a real devotee. One cannot understand them simply by erudite scholarship or sharp intelligence. It is also said, Gita Dita Chayinapi Bhakti Bhavena Chetasa Veda Shastra Puranani Tena Ditani Sarvashaha. To one who reads the Bhagavad Gita with faith and devotion, the essence of Vedic knowledge is revealed. And according to the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, Yastedevi para bhaktir yatateve tatagorao tasaite katita hyarta prakashanti mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. All Vedic literatures are to be understood with faith and devotion, not by mundane scholarship. We have therefore presented Bhagavad Gita as it is. There are many so-called scholars and philosophers who read the Bhagavad Gita in a scholarly way. They simply waste their time and mislead those who read their commentaries. After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced the Brahmana, and the Brahmana, catching the lotus feet of the Lord, began to cry. The Brahmana said, upon seeing you, my happiness is doubled. I take it that you are the same Lord Krishna. The mind of the Brahmana was purified by the revelation of Lord Krishna, and therefore he could understand the truth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all details. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then taught the Brahmana very thoroughly and requested him not to disclose the fact that he was Lord Krishna himself. That Brahmana became a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and for 4 continuous months he did not give up the Lord's company. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained at the house of Venkata Bhatta and constantly talked with him about Lord Krishna. In this way he was very happy. Being a Vaishnav in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Venkata Bhatta worshipped the deities of Lakshmi and Narayan. Seeing his pure devotion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. Constantly associating with each other, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Venkata Bhatta gradually developed a friendly relationship. Indeed, sometimes they laughed and joked together. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Bhattacharya, your worshipable goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy who is engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha for a long time, accepted vows and regulative principles, and performed unlimited austerities. Text 114. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. Even the goddess of fortune, for this end, performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:16-36 was spoken by the wives of the Kaliya serpent. Venkatabhatta then said, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. Since Krishna and Narayan are the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna does not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. Purport: this is the answer to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's question, and from this we can understand that Venkatabhatta knew the truth. He told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Narayan is a form of Krishna associated with transcendental opulence. Although Krishna is two-armed and Narayan four-armed, there is no difference in the person. They are one and the same. Narayan is as beautiful as Krishna, but Krishna's pastimes are more sportive. It is not that the sportive pastimes of Krishna make him different from Narayan. Lakshmi's desiring to associate with Krishna was perfectly natural. In other words, it is understandable that a chaste woman wants to associate with her husband in all his different dresses. Therefore, one should not criticize Lakshmi for wanting to associate with Krishna. Venkatabhatta continued, according to transcendental realization, there is no difference between the forms of Narayan and Krishna. Yet in Krishna there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow, and consequently he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows. This verse quoted by Venkatabhatta is also found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. Venkatabhatta further explained, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is also an enjoyer of transcendental bliss. Therefore, if she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking so about this? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I know that there is no fault on the part of the goddess of fortune, but still, she could not enter into the rasa dance. We hear this from the revealed scriptures. When Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts in the spiritual world, nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily luster and aroma exactly resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very, very beautiful according to material estimation. How many times has that verse been quoted? Yeah, that's right, 3. It's 3 times in the Madhya Lila so far. From Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-60. Better mark it. Let's see what is the meter. Nayam Shriyunga Itanda Rate Prasada Swarayoshitam Nalina Ganda Rucham Kutonya Rasotsave Sabuja Danda Grihita Kanta Labdha Shisham Yad Udagad Vrajasundarina. Amrita, mark it. What? It's what? Vasanta. Vasanta. Put that it's Vasanta meter. Lakshmi Keni na paila ihara hi karana tapakari kaiche Krishna paila shuti gana. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune Lakshmi could not enter the rasa dance? The authorities of Vedic knowledge could enter the dance and associate with Krishna. Great sages conquer the mind and senses by practicing the mystic yoga system and controlling the breath, thus engaging in mystic yoga. They see the supersoul within their hearts and ultimately enter into impersonal Brahman. But even the enemies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead attain that position simply by thinking of the Supreme Lord. However, The damsels of Vraja, the gopis, being attracted by the beauty of Krishna, simply wanted to embrace him and his arms, which are like serpents. Thus, the gopis ultimately tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, we Upanishads can also taste the nectar of his lotus feet by following in the footsteps of the gopis. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 1087:23. And this is quoted, this is the second time it's quoted. And it's in the meter of Nibrita Marumanasha. A lot of AI going on out there. Okay. Having been asked by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu why the goddess of fortune could not enter into the rasa dance, whereas the authorities on Vedic knowledge could, Venkatabhata replied, I cannot enter into the mysteries of this behavior. Venkatabhata then said, I am an ordinary human being. Since my intelligence is very limited and I'm easily agitated, my mind cannot enter within the deep ocean of the pastimes of the Lord. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. You know the purpose of your activities, and the person whom you enlighten can also understand your pastimes. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and his pastimes cannot be understood by blunt material senses. One has to purify the senses by rendering transcendental loving service unto the Lord. When the Lord is pleased and reveals himself, one can understand the transcendental form, name, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. This is confirmed in the Karta Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad. Yam evaisha vrinute tena labhyas thus yaisha atma vrinute tanum swam. Anyone who is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can understand his transcendental name, qualities, form, and pastimes. The Lord replied, Lord Krishna has a special characteristic. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love. By following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Rajaloka or Goloka Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, in that planet, the inhabitants do not know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There, someone may accept him as a son and sometimes bind him to a grinding mortar. Someone else may accept him as an intimate friend and, attaining victory over him, playfully mount his shoulders. The inhabitants of Rajabhumi know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda, the king of Rajabhumi, and they consider that they can have no relationship with the Lord in the rasa of opulence. One who worships the Lord by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Rajabhumi attains him in the transcendental planet of Raja, where he is known as the son of Maharaj Nanda. Purport. The inhabitants of Rajabhumi or Goloka Vrindavan know Krishna as the son of Maharaj Nanda. They do not accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as people in general do. The Lord is the supreme maintainer of everyone and the chief personality among all personalities. In Vrajabhumi, Krishna is certainly the central point of love, but no one knows him there as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, a person may know him as a friend, son, lover, or master. In any case, the center is Krishna. The inhabitants of Vrajabhumi are related to the Lord in servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal love. A person engaged in devotional service may accept any one of these transcendental relationships, which are known as mellows. When such a person reaches the perfectional stage, he returns home back to Krishna in his pure spiritual identity. I'll repeat the last sentence. 2 sentences. The inhabitants of Vrajabhumi are related to the Lord in servitude, friendship, parental love, and conjugal love. A person engaged in devotional service may accept any one of these transcendental relationships, which are known as mellows. When such a person reaches the perfectional stage, he returns home back to Krishna in his pure spiritual identity. Nayam Sukhapo Bhagavan Dehinam Gopika Sutta Jnaninam Chatmabhutanam Yata Bhakti Matam Yaha. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then quoted, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. This verse, also given in Madhya Lila 8:227, is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:921. The authorities, that one, Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan, chapter 9, 10th canto, 9th, Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan. Yeah, that one is in, What? No, but what's chapter 9? Pardon me? Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan comes after Nandakima Karod Brahman, Shayot Eva Mahodayan, Yashoda Cha Mahapapa, Papo Yasyastanam Hari, right? What's the name of the chapter? Mother Yashoda binds Krishna. Gracias. The authorities in Vedic literature who are known as the Shruti Ganas worship Lord Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis and followed in their footsteps. Purport: the authorities in the Vedic literature who are known as the Shruti Ganas, known as who? Shruti Ganas. Desired to enter into Lord Sri Krishna's rasa dance. Therefore, they began to worship the Lord in the ecstasy of the gopis. In the beginning, however, they were unsuccessful. When they could not enter the dance simply by thinking of Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis, they actually accepted bodies like those of the gopis. They even took birth in Vrajabhumi, just like the gopis, and consequently became engrossed in the ecstasy of the gopis' love. In this way, they were allowed to enter into the Rasa Lila dance of the Lord. There you have it. The personified authorities on the Vedic hymns acquired bodies like those of the gopis and took birth in Brajabhumi. In those bodies, they were allowed to enter into the Lord's Rasa Lila dance. Lord Krishna belongs to the cowherd community, and the gopis are the dearmost lovers of Krishna. Although the wives of the denizens of the heavenly planets are most opulent within the material world, neither they nor the other women in the material universe can acquire Krishna's association. The goddess of fortune Lakshmi wanted to enjoy Krishna and at the same time retain her spiritual body in the form of Lakshmi. However, she did not follow in the footsteps of the gopis in her worship of Krishna. Vyasadeva, the supreme authority on Vedic literature, composed the verse beginning Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan because no one can enter into the Rasa Lila dance in any body other than that of a gopi. Purport: this verse confirms a verse in the Bhagavad Gita 9:25. Yanti deva vrata devan pitran yanti pratirvata bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti mam yajinopi mam. Lord Krishna said, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. In the material world, every conditioned soul changes his material body again and again. But when the spirit soul is purified of all material coverings, There is no longer a chance of his accepting a material body. Such a soul then remains in his original spiritual identity, a state that is possible to achieve only by understanding Krishna in truth through the practice of Krishna consciousness. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma tame divyam evam yo tatvata tekva teham punarjanma naitima. According to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class, who used to quote this frequently? The answer is A, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, correct. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Only when one regains his original spiritual body can he enter into the spiritual kingdom. As far as the Rasa Lila pastimes of the Lord are concerned, it is futile for one who is within the material world to attempt to imitate the Lord's dances. One has to attain a spiritual body like that of a gopi to enter into the pastimes of the Rasa Lila. In the Nayam Sukapo verse, the devotees are referred to as bhakti mat, that is, fully engaged in devotional service and devoid of material contamination. Nayam Sukapo Bhagavan Dehinam Gopikasuta Gyaninam Chatma Bhutanam Yata Bhakti Matam Iha. Bhakti mat. One cannot enter into Krishna's Rasa Lila dance simply by artificially imitating it or artificially thinking oneself a Sakhi and dressing up like one. Krishna's Rasa Lila dance is completely spiritual. It has nothing to do with material contamination. Therefore, no one can enter into this pastime by artificial material means. That is the instruction of the Nayam Sukapo verse, and it must be strictly understood. 138. Before this explanation was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Venkatabhata thought that Sri Narayan was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thinking in this way, Venkatabhata believed that worship of Narayan was the supreme form of worship, superior to all other processes of devotional service, for it was followed by the Sri Vaishnava disciples of Ramanujacharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had understood this misconception of Venkatabhat's, and to correct it, the Lord talked so much in a joking way. The Lord then continued, My dear Venkatabhat, please do not continue doubting. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and this is the conclusion of the Vedic literatures. Lord Narayan, the opulent form of Krishna, attracts the minds of the goddess of fortune and her followers. Ete chamsha kala pumsa Krishnastu bhagavan swayam indrari vyakalam lokam hridayanti yuge yuge. All these incarnations of Godhead are either plenary portions or parts of the plenary portions of the Purusha avatars, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. In every age, he protects the world through his different features when the world is disturbed by the enemies of Indra. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28. Because Krishna has four extraordinary qualities not possessed by Lord Narayan, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always desires his company. Lord Narayan has 60 transcendental qualities. Over and above these, Krishna has four extraordinary transcendental qualities absent in Lord Narayan. These four qualities are: 1, his wonderful pastimes which are compared to an ocean; 2, his association in the circle of the supreme devotees in conjugal love, the gopis; 3, his playing on the flute, whose vibration attracts the three worlds; and 4, his extraordinary beauty, which surpasses the beauty of the three worlds. Lord Krishna's beauty is unequaled and unsurpassed. You have recited the shloka beginning with Siddhantatas Swabhedhepi. That very verse is evidence that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we'll take a few reflections. More questions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We're started on the inside people's party.
I'm trying to understand the use of the verse Nayam Sukapo Bhagavan in the context of this discussion a little bit more elaborately. Could you expound upon it?
It's a categorical statement about the process of Raganuga Bhakti and how that's the means by which one can attain Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. All other means, and they're summarized in the verse, Nayam Sukapa Bhagavan, Dehinam, somebody thinks they're the body, they're out. Dehinam Gopikasata, Gyaninam, the Gyanis, Chatma Bhutani, Yata Bhakti Matamiha. There's Gyanis, yogis, big fat materialists, and they're all disqualified, but one who follows the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan in this spontaneous, natural, loving service, they can very easily attain Krishna. Yes?
So the reason why Lakshmi was not granted entrance is because she didn't accept that process.
She didn't give up her abhiman. She had this ego of being all opulent Lakshmiji, and she didn't want to give it up. That's it. Okay. Yes, Mukharvind, and then we're going... Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mahendra.
Just appreciating the exchanges of Mahaprabhu and Venkatabhata. They developed this friendship, and Mahaprabhu wanted to correct him, but in a joking way. And the humility of Venkatabhata also, how when Mahaprabhu said, why, he asked him, why is this happening? Tell me why she wasn't allowed. And he said, I'm just a jiva. My intelligence is limited, and then I'm easily agitated. How can I penetrate the deep ocean of the pastimes? So such a humility is very nice. We can never pretend that we know anything. Even Brahma says, others may say they know. As far as myself, I don't know about Krishna's pastimes.
Yeah, it's very nice that it's emphasized there that they were friendly. They became friendly and even joked together. And that Mahaprabhu, when he brought up the topic, which can be very sensitive because those dedicated to Vaikuntha and Lord Narayan's the Supreme can feel displaced by this idea that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Mahaprabhu joked with him. Different approaches to different people. With Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he remained silent, and then he came on strong with his intellect. He blew his mind. And then, jokingly, won the heart of Venkatabhata, and then brought up this irrefutable point that then Venkatabhata, he asked him a question that he couldn't answer, and then he answered it for him, and that's what changed him. There's a follow-up, right? Okay.
Also, Mahaprabhu took quite a bit of time spending time with Venkatabhata before he actually brought it up. Yeah.
Months, yeah. That's right. First he became friends. Mukharavind.
Maharaj, one thing I'm noticing that I got a little confused that in the current purport that when the inhabitants of Rajbhumi are told, they start from the servitude onwards.
They what?
They don't. In the current purport in the 131, Prabhupada didn't include the Santarasa. He started from the servitude and then parental and the friendship and the conjugal. And then yesterday's discussion when we had the Ramananda Samvad, and in the last when there is a summary given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he gives the first 5 with these metals, copper, bell, silver, gold and touchstone. So first he told that okay, there are 5, first 5 they they discuss, and only when the Gyane Prayas, then he accepted. And then that was the first 5. And then he told the next 5, he says that it starts from he gives the example of Yamuna river in the bank and everything, and then he takes again to the conjugal. And then he told that this 5 again from copper, bell, silver. So there he mentioned that, okay, there is a relationship of Santa is also there. But I don't remember that even when we were discussing the actual verses that time, Ramananda Rai has quoted anything related to the Sant Rasa. So I'm a little bit confused that sometimes.
Just ask a question. If you're a little confused, I can't help it. If you ask me a specific question.
So the question is that is the Sant Rasa is included or not when the devotees aspire for following Krishna in the Raganuga Bhakti? Is the Sant Rasa is included or not?
Everything's included, including Shantaras, because it's a symphony glorifying Radha and Krishna. And in a symphony, you may say, well, what's the triangle guy doing? It adds something that's vital in the symphony. And all of the devotees are serving in their own way. And when the gopis are in the forest, they're glorifying the different creepers who are there personified and interacting. The forest is there, the river's there, and so forth. What would Vrindavan be without the Jamuna? It would be Dwarka, and the gopis don't want to go there. So it's all part of the glorification. It's not compartmentalized that this is the pinnacle and therefore it's good. We should just focus our attention on that, try for that, only then, and forget all these other things that are inferior. And by the way, don't read Bhagavad Gita. I know you're not saying that, but this is what it leads to without understanding that it's absolute. And Prabhupada mentioned that they're all on the transcendental levels. So these other distinctions are more towards the nuance in taste and so forth. But they all contribute towards the grand presentation of Radha and Krishna and their rasa dance. So neutrality is also a thing.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. Yes. We're coming outside just after this last one. Not literally, but we're going to...
Earlier you mentioned that one of the nine processes of devotional service is making one's friend with Krishna or best friend with Krishna.
Yeah.
And then there's a statement of being a friend with Krishna, and that's one of the 5 rasas. So can you explain like the differences between those two? Because I always got confused between making Krishna your best friend versus ecstatic love.
Versus what?
One of the 5 rasas you can have with Krishna and Vrindavan.
No, but you were saying... Okay. Well, Prabhupada mentions in the Nectar of Devotion that if you want to be Krishna's friend, of course he's already our friend. It's called Suhrit. In a generic way, Krishna's a friend of all living beings. So the way to become friendly with Krishna is to do his work, which is especially to help other living beings come to him. The mood of becoming Krishna's friend, as mentioned there, can be taken like that, but it's also a very specific role that devotees play in their eternal relationship with Krishna. And there are different kinds of friends. There are some friends that are more... some friends are more intimate than others. And that science is mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. Rupa Goswami talks about how there are some friends that are also have a sense of paternal relationship because they're sort of guardians over Krishna. There's other ones that are absolutely equal to him, and there's some that are not as much. So I suppose you could say that, on a generic level, becoming a friend of Krishna is the consideration that Krishna gives in the verse in the Bhagavad Gita where he says, Bhoktaram Yakatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam sarva dehinam gyatvam shantam richati. That these are things you should consider and cultivate, and one of them is Suridam sarvabhutanam, that Krishna is the friend of all living beings. That's more of a generic understanding, and the other one is a very specific rasa or relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. Okay, now for the outside people's party, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. This is Nitya Tarangini Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Nitya Tarangini Devi Dasi.
Since the morning of the reading session, there are 20 people who tuned in online. And
Haribo! Hari Hari!
There are a couple of questions and a couple of reflections. The first question is from Chikunjavenam Prabhu. As part of Bhadra campaign, we offer Srimad Bhagavatam installation ceremony. Part of the ceremony is we offer food to Srimad Bhagavatam. Can we offer food to Srimad Bhagavatam?
Yes.
Okay. Next question is from Divyananda Prabhu.
That's something Prabhupada told the devotees on traveling Sankirtan. I'll have to verify the person who related that, but it was in the same era when traveling Sankirtan started. However, there are some people who have, it's a controversial point, so just so you know. But there is some praman from the time when Prabhupada said you can offer bhoga to the books. Go ahead.
This question is from Divyananda Prabhu. Many times we go into the technicality and do not have emotions or feelings while reading or doing devotional service. It's more mechanical. How to develop the emotions or bhava while performing any devotional activity?
Well, even when we're performing something dutifully, there's an emotion, which is, I'm doing this for Krishna. Because why else would you do it? I mean, there could be other motivations, but if you remember that even though you don't have a taste, you're dutiful in chanting your rounds, for instance. There's a taste in that because you're doing your duty and you think, I'm doing this for Krishna. It's also helpful to associate with those devotees who have a taste because it rubs off. Everything rubs off on us. Karanam guna sangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Lord Krishna says in the 13th chapter of the Gita that all the traits that we have now have come from association. And just as much as our material traits come from our material association, so similarly our spiritual traits come from our association with devotees. Therefore, one should associate with those who are more advanced than oneself, who are like-minded and more advanced than oneself. And by such association with, in particular, devotees who have emotion and have taste, will also begin to develop that by their association. And especially if we approach more advanced devotees in the way that Krishna recommends it, tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tapad. What are the strong impressions from Mataji's class this morning? It was so powerful about being humble, approaching all devotees in a humble mood. You can always learn something from everybody. And then when one's hearing from advanced devotees, one should be submissive hearing, and one should also render service. Shushushroshradhanasya vasudeva kata ruchi. You get ruchi from rendering service to the great souls. And tavidi pradipatena paripashninas upadakshati jnaninas tavadarshina. That if one is pranipat, render service, And also, ask good questions. As about asking questions, unless you practice deeply, you won't have any questions. Just like when you're learning a musical instrument, your music teacher says, half hour a day, and then you don't do it. So you come back next week and she says, do you have any questions? You say no, and she said, you didn't practice. Because as soon as you practice half hour a day, you're going to run into places where, how do I do this? Where's my finger go? What about this note? That looks like a sharp, but actually it's a flat. Whatever it is, you're going to have a question. So same thing, we should practice hard so that we can have good questions to ask advanced devotees. Om Tat Sat.
There is one more reflection from Divyananda Prabhu himself.
From who?
Divyananda Prabhu.
Divya Ananda. We're not confusing with Divyanga. We're calling Divya Ananda, who is here.
Yes.
He was here and then he had to go back. He was here for 4 days.
Yes, it's Divyananda.
Divya Ananda.
So his reflection is the Brahmana and faith in Krishna. The Brahmana had faith in Krishna and spiritual master, but at the same time he was reading with emotions or feelings.
That's a statement. Thank you.
The next reflection is from Alexander Jarino. It was amazing to hear that the Brahmana was attracting Lord Chaitanya's attention simply by reading Bhagavad Gita. The last reflection is from Satyasankalpa Prabhu. Real mercy towards anyone is connecting them back to Krishna. Thank you for highlighting that. And that's the last one.
Thank you for the invaluable service you're doing, Nitya Tarangani Devi Dasi. Mahendra.
One sentence, nectar of instruction, purport of text 8, Prabhupada quoting Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Raganuga Bhakti or spontaneous devotional service can be executed in Shantarasa when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows or stick or flute in the hand of Krishna or the flowers around Krishna's neck.
Haribo. It's good to have a pundit in the group. Yogirish.
Hare Krishna. The discussion Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Venkata Bhatta had was partially in relation to Lakshmi Devi and her position in relation to the gopis. That reminded me of a verse from the 4th canto from Prithu Maharaj's prayers. I can read the translation. My dear Lord of the universe, the goddess of fortune Lakshmi is the mother of the universe, and yet I think that she may be angry with me because of my intruding upon her service and acting on that very platform to which she is so much attached. Yet I am hopeful that even though there is some misunderstanding, you will take my part, for you are very much inclined to the poor, and you always magnify even insignificant service unto you. Therefore, even though she becomes angry, I think that there is no harm for you, because you are so self-sufficient that you can do without her. And I thought this showcased what you discussed about how Lakshmi Devi might have some pride in relation to her position in her service.
It represents Lakshmi Devi's what, did you say?
I showed her pride and attachment that she has
her
to
pride
her
and
service.
attachment, yeah, okay. Well done, Yogadish Prabhu, thank you. Madhav.
I had a question from Bhagavad Gita 9:25.
9:25.
Like the where it was in text, I think 137. That those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Like, what does that mean? Because, like, is there a planet where all the ancestors live or something?
Does that sound scary? What are you doing here? Yeah. Pitri Loka. So there are these very subtle karmic connections. That's why the material world it's a very sticky place. People become attached. We see in the story of Pururava, he wanted to be with Urvashi in the next life, and Prabhupada mentions that some people are so attached they want to go back to their other family. There are some religions that are based on family, and their whole idea is that when you die, heaven means going to join your family. And there's that idea. Pitriloka, yes?
Just as an anecdote for this, I was on traveling Sankirtan with Brigupati Prabhu in Coos Bay, and we went to a community college which was a total bust, but in the process of being there, Brigupati Prabhu started going inside of all the buildings, and he found the name of a doctor who had an Indian last name, so he went to his office, and the man was from Nepal. Brigupati Prabhu convinced him to buy a Srimad Bhagavatam set, and because we were in Coos Bay, Oregon, which is in the middle of nowhere, the man invited us to his house, so we went to his home, and in his home, I'm not kidding you, he had a gigantic altar of his mother. And Brigupati Prabhu was trying to preach to him, but the man was so set that no, when I leave my body, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be the son of my mother again in the next life, because she's the greatest mother, and in every life I will be her son. He was fixed. And I got an understanding of this, why the Pitriloka exists, because there's people that have that conception, and this man was a stark example of such a consciousness.
Wow. Strong anecdotal evidence. So yes, there are realms wherein one may continue pursuing one's material attachments for one's previous karmic relatives.
Like, how long do they stay there? Like it's like
it really
like
depends on whether you take a Sankirtan party there or not. I mean, a lot of the Vedic rituals are based on freeing people from that, because the son is called Putra. Put means hell, and Tra means to deliver. So after somebody wants to have a son because they know when they leave this world they can get entangled in the material world in various places, so they want their son to perform some ceremony, the Shraddha ceremony and so forth, to help support them when they get more entangled in the subtleties of the material world. And people remain in the material world as long as they are not in association with pure devotees and chanting the holy names of the Lord. That's why it's so important to propagate Krishna consciousness, because Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. Everyone's wandering around, hanging around, loitering in the material world for various inane reasons. They're all inane because we have nothing to do with the material world in the first place. It's a crazy show going on here. So until people come to Krishna consciousness. Yes, last one from the Outside People's Party.
Guru Maharaj, in the verse 128 here, the translation is, by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Rajaloka or Goloka Vrindavana. When they say the planet, do they mean the Vraj here, like in earth, or?
Goloka Vrindavan is the topmost planet in the spiritual world. Goloka namni nijadamni taleta tasya devi mahesha haridama suteshu teshu te te prabhavan jaya vihitas jayena govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. And the Boma Vrindavan, the earthly Vrindavan, is an exact replica of Goloka Vrindavan. When Gopakumar leaves Vrindavan, Boma Vrindavan on the earth, and goes to Goloka Vrindavan, he can't tell the difference. He looks and sees same, but different. And so this is like an embassy, this Boma Vrindavan, and then there's the Goloka Vrindavan. There are some differences. As far as our acharyas go, they like Boma Vrindavan more. Because in earthly Vrindavan, Krishna actually does take birth from Yashoda. And they see him as, it's sweeter because it's closer to the, for lack of a better phrase, human experience. There's less sense of godhood in Krishna. He's really the son of Yashoda and Nanda. And then there's other pastimes here that aren't in Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world, including Krishna killing the demons. So yes, it's the same, but different.
So this means that they are referring to the spiritual Goloka Vrindavan.
In which verse?
In verse 128.
138.
128, Maharaj.
128.
Yeah.
Let's have a look-see. 128. Vrajalokera bhave bhai thahar charan thare ishar khare nahe jane vraj jano. By following the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Vrajaloka or Goloka Vrindavan, one can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. However, in that planet, the inhabitants do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It could be either, because they're interchangeable, as you'll find in the Brahma Samhita, the emphasis on the fact that they're the same place, with just slight difference. So, in context, whether one's following in the footsteps of those inhabitants that were here when Krishna was performing his pastimes in Boma Vrindavan, or those in Goloka Vrindavan, the effect is the same.
Thank you, Maharaj. But in Bhagavatam we read the gopis are offering prayers to the Lord, right? Like,
yes,
thinking that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Where's that?
The gopis are offering prayers to Krishna.
Where's that?
In the 10th canto. In one of those songs.
Well, it's not that even Yashoda or others, they may see something that looks very godly, like Krishna defeating a demon or lifting a hill. How's that? He lifts up a mountain on his little finger for 7 days, and everyone's like, yeah, how do you do that? In fact, they have all the cowherd men get together afterwards and they say, like, I think something's up here. And so Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but his opulence is suppressed in Goloka Vrindavan. Sometimes it comes out, but because of the power of the natural love of the inhabitants of the devotees in Vrindavan, then it's suppressed again. Case in point, Yashoda chastises Krishna for eating dirt. Krishna says, I didn't do it. Yashoda says, but your friends all said they're lying. Balaram said, he's lying too. They're working together. He said, open your mouth. We're going to have a look. She looks inside and sees his godly nature, that all of creation is there within his mouth. And then that dissipates very quickly because of the power of her motherly love. And she says, okay, all right. Anyway, just go play, but don't eat dirt, okay? Thank you, bye. And that comes and goes very quickly. So sometimes you'll hear in the prayers of devotees, they'll say something about Krishna's godhood, but it's overwhelmed by their natural, spontaneous love, where they don't see his godhood. Even Arjuna, battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was just, he has that revelation in the 11th chapter where he says, oh my God, you are God, right? We were sitting on the bed together a while ago, and I was cutting jokes at your expense, and now here you are, God, And that also dissipates after some time. although their relationship's very different from the residents of Vrindavan. It's a different kind of friendship he has. It's the city friendship. So instead of like the sweet village kind of friendship that he has with his other friends.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, you have a follow-up, or are you done?
Yeah, I was going to ask, so do they know that if he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead or no?
Sometimes they know, but then they forget.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yogamaya. Krishna doesn't want him to remember. In fact, case in point, Vasudeva, when Krishna killed Kamsa, he was really trying to, in front of Vasudeva and Devaki, he was really trying to downplay the whole thing, because he didn't want them to come out of their parental affection for him. They're not as steeped in parental affection as Nanda and Yashoda are. But then, when they went to Kurukshetra for the eclipse, and the sages came, they kind of blew it for Vasudeva, because they started offering all these prayers like, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Vasudeva was listening after he came up to Krishna, and Krishna's like, darn it. And he then Krishna, it's mentioned there, the acharyas say that Krishna was, he had been trying to hold that back. But then, so that's case in point that there's this tension, a yogamaya, and it can come in that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but then because of the natural relationship that one has, that they go back to that natural relationship rather than seeing him as God because of some event or prayer. Devrata?
We've been quoting this verse, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatmam Prema Suryam Susamyabhak. And I'm just thinking that as a sadhaka, we need to understand Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why we study Bhagavad Gita, we study Srimad Bhagavatam from Canto 1 to Canto 10. So I have a philosophical question in my mind. Is this Ruchi Bis Chinmaya Srinya, this descent of taste, does that come with a sense of Krishna's godhood kind of disappearing and becoming more impelled by the sweetness of Krishna? How does that consciousness arise in a sadhaka? We'll just go
from the other side, because in order to come to the point of forgetting Krishna's godhood, first one has to realize it. And it's not that the Shruti Ganas, as mentioned there, or any of the gopis, the millions and millions of gopis, one may say, they're just simple cowherd girls. But behind all that, actually, they're the greatest, most realized of all personalities. Sakam Vrajaru Krita Punya Punja. Nobody has more pious credits or spiritual advancement than they do, which includes knowing everything, including He's the Supreme Personality of God. So when one's steeped in Mahamaya, one has to rise above that and understand Krishna's godhood, then to come to the point of a relationship with Him, in which one forgets it. Navina Prabhu, were you going to make a point? Okay. Anything else? Last two, and then... Oh, you have one too. Okay, that's all right. Go ahead.
Raghunath Das Goswami gives a really nice example about the love of Vrijabasis. That's their prema, their especially sweet and intense prema, which washes away that feeling of own reverence, of understanding that He is God. It's just their intense prema. He said, like on the shore of the ocean of their prema, it just washes away this. But they otherwise they know and they have knowledge. But other example acharyas give is like boiling milk and a straw. Small straw sometimes appears, but it just comes to this verse, it disappears. So this awareness comes sometimes just to increase the sweetness. Like like this verse in the Gopi Gita, they are saying, well, we know that you are not really the son of Madhya Yashoda, you're the Paramatma in everyone's heart, but then they say, please, put your hand on and embraces and kisses. So it's just immediately
it happens at
goes away.
Kurukshetra also, because there at Kurukshetra, they're asking Krishna, the gopis, why is it that you didn't come back? And he said, well, it's Narayan's in charge of everything. It must be destiny because of Lord Narayan. And the gopis go, let's get something straight here. You are Narayan. So underneath the surface, as you're saying, there's that awareness that isn't considered very much because it's washed away, as you were so nicely pointing out. Prabhu, and then last one here.
Also, there is that pastime when Krishna showed his Narayana form to his parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, to let them know that I am Narayan that took birth. Even though Devaki saw the four-arm form of Krishna, she still said, okay, go back to the two-arm because Kamsa is going to come here soon, So that's another sign of that deep parental affection, for Krishna. She knows
he showed
he's
his
God.
forearm form there, and then she said that, what if he sees you here, then he'll really know that you're God, and then say, become a baby again. It doesn't make logical sense, right?
Yeah, because he's God.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So just changing different topic, this story of the Brahman that was crying reading the Bhagavad Gita, lot of times during our programs and festivals and kirtans, we meet people that are very emotional during our Harinam, bhajan, crying. How does one differentiate these emotions? Sometimes they seem mundane. How do we know that they're coming from a position of spontaneous love for Lord versus false ego?
Yeah, that comes up in the verse Evam Vrata Swapriya Namakirtya Jatanu Rago Jatachitta Uchar Asatyito Rotiti Roti Gayati and Madhavam Rititi Lokabhaya, which is a verse that Srila Ishvara Puri gave to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he took initiation, and says, it describes how when one has chants the holy name of the Lord, then one's vow to become a devotee becomes very strong, and then the heart melts, and one experiences emotions which the devotee may express externally in crying, hair standing on end, and so forth. And then in the commentary, the purport, there's a mention of how some devotees show external symptoms and others don't. But Madhvacharya then, in the same vein, as you're saying, how do we verify this? We want verification. Because someone may say, I was dancing with Krishna last night, prove me wrong. So he says there's two symptoms by which, he said there's only two symptoms by which one can judge the advancement of a devotee. One is their steadiness, and the other is mukhi prasada, which means their speech. Is their speech merciful? And also you could add, as we know from the Shastra, Shruti Smriti Paranadi Panchatriki Vidambina Aikantiki Harir Bhakti Rupatadhyaya Vikalpate. If people are engaged in devotional practices that don't follow the Shruti, the Smriti, Pancharatra, they may say, I'm so advanced, I'm crying, and so forth like that, but then they, like we had one brahmachari once, I swung by the temple and he was doing Mangalarti 2 hours late. And I said, what's going on? He said, it's spontaneous. That's not according to the Paditi. And so you have to verify by those types of things. Some people, especially Westerners, when they come, sometimes they do break out into tears because some kind of a dam breaks, they discover Krishna consciousness, you have to be a little careful and sort of coach them along. But if somebody becomes a disturbance in the group by doing it regularly as a kind of demonstration of that they're more advanced than other people, and it encroaches on the mood, then you might have to do something about it. And so, yes, did that answer your question?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, thank you.
So, we have come to the end of our morning session, and we'll take a little break until 4 o'clock. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Sri Panchatattva, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Sri Gauranitai, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, Sri Sri Radhesham, if you so desire, please give us implicit faith in our Guru Varga and in your lotus feet, so we may realize the imports of all Vedic knowledge and distribute it to people all over the world. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Vanchakalpadrishya kripasnabheva chapatitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hey, Kachaka, probably should have been an opera singer.